Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Update, your go-to source for the latest news, expert insights, and real-time developments on Iraq's currency, economy, and financial reforms. Whether you're a long-time investor or just curious about the dinar, you're in the right place. When discussing Iraq's current financial and economic landscape, it becomes clear that numerous elements are visibly in motion, yet certain key pieces remain conspicuously absent. Observers who are deeply familiar with Iraq's monetary reform process and broader fiscal restructuring often note patterns, developments that seem temporarily stalled, decisions that remain unannounced, and crucial government functions that are either delayed or incomplete. For instance, the national budget, a foundational financial instrument that should guide public spending and priorities, continues to remain hidden from the public eye. Despite expectations and discussions within both domestic and international circles, the finalized implementation of the budget remains elusive. This isn't merely a bureaucratic delay or a technical holdup. It points to a deeper, more structural issue. Similarly, the issue of back pay, salary arrears or compensations owed to government employees and various stakeholders, has not been fully resolved or distributed. In most functioning economic systems, the delay of such payments would signal either a liquidity problem, a policy bottleneck, or a larger restructuring effort. Given Iraq's fiscal capacity, particularly with its vast oil wealth, it becomes difficult to accept that mere cash shortages are the problem. Rather, the suspension of these payouts appears more calculated, more deliberate, and more interlinked with a broader agenda. In parallel, there has been no significant restart in full oil exports in certain regions or to specific trading partners. Iraq's hydrocarbon sector, the lifeblood of its economy, has the potential to generate immense revenue, and its proper functioning is vital for funding government operations, rebuilding infrastructure, and enhancing economic sovereignty. Yet even this sector has not returned to full activity. Once again, the issue isn't just technical, it's part of a deliberate pattern of restraint, a holding pattern of sorts. If one examines all of these factors, an unseen finalized budget, unpaid back salaries, and delayed oil operations, through a disjointed lens, they may seem like unrelated bureaucratic failures. However, when seen holistically and through the perspective of someone familiar with the intricacies of Iraq's monetary reform, a clearer and more coherent pattern begins to emerge. The central argument, increasingly echoed by those closely following this reform process, is that all of these seemingly unrelated elements are in fact tightly interconnected and are being held in place by a singular missing element, a new exchange rate. The idea is that all these developments, budget execution, back pay, oil revenues, government spending, are essentially rate-sensitive. They all hinge on the introduction of a new exchange rate, one that accurately reflects Iraq's real economic potential, market conditions, and global integration ambitions. As it stands, the current official exchange rate of 1310 Iraqi dinars per US dollar does not make sense to many observers. It seems misaligned with the underlying reforms, fiscal activities, and Iraq's engagement with international institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and regional trade organizations. Frank, a figure known within certain financial discussion communities, concurs with this assessment, stating unequivocally, "I agree 100%. I agree with you, Mr. Sami, because if you sit back and look at the whole picture of the monetary reform, there's only one thing missing, a new exchange rate that makes everything work." His perspective underscores a growing consensus among analysts, investors, and reform watchers that Iraq is not waiting idly. Instead, it is strategically positioning itself to implement a significant change in its financial architecture, one centered around the revaluation or realignment of the dinar's exchange rate. To understand this, one must consider what a budget really represents in a reforming country like Iraq. The national budget isn't just a financial ledger, it's a tool for policy implementation, economic signaling, and political coordination. It determines the scale and scope of public sector employment, the extent of infrastructure development, and the level of social services the state can provide. When the budget remains unpublished or partially implemented, it often means that the figures within it, the revenue projections, expenditure caps, and investment priorities, may not align with current monetary policies. This creates a tension between fiscal planning and monetary reality, and the only logical resolution to that tension is a change in the fundamental valuation of the currency. Moreover, consider the implications of delaying back pay. Government workers, retirees, contractors, and service providers all depend on timely compensation. A delay in these payments affects not just household livelihoods, but also overall economic activity. Consumer demand contracts, confidence wanes. Likewise, the oil sector's partial restraint may serve a similar purpose. Oil is Iraq's main source of foreign currency inflow. It also constitutes the largest portion of state revenue. A revaluation of the dinar would impact how oil proceeds are accounted for, how they are distributed through the national budget, and how they are managed by the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI. If the government anticipates a no-term change in the currency's value, this is why so many close observers believe that everything comes back to the rate. Without a new exchange rate, the numbers in the budget don't balance, the figures behind employee compensation don't add up, and the oil income doesn't reflect the true value of Iraq's resources. The current exchange rate of 1310 IQD per USD may be an interim mechanism, but it fails to reflect the structural changes being made within the central bank and the broader financial system. And so, when Frank says that there's only one thing missing, a new exchange rate that makes everything work, he's pointing to the linchpin. It's the keystone in the arch. It's the final puzzle piece that, once placed, allows the entire picture to make sense. All the preparatory steps, the digitization, the payment delays, the budget ambiguities, the oil hesitations, suddenly become rational when viewed through the lens of a pending revaluation. At 1310, nothing aligns. But with a rate that reflects purchasing power parity, market dynamics, and national reform objectives, everything clicks. What is being witnessed, then, is not confusion or incompetence, it is a well-orchestrated, albeit opaque, transition. And like all significant changes in macroeconomic policy, the endgame is never publicly declared in advance. It emerges through signs, patterns, and restrained actions. Those watching closely can see the shape forming in the mist. And while the timeline remains uncertain, the logic points in a clear direction. A new exchange rate is not just likely, it's essential. Thanks for tuning in to Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed and stay ready.